You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is May the 4th, 2020. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
May the 4th is also known as Star Wars Day. You want to know why?
I do.
Because there's a pun that's May the 4th be with you. I feel like, Carl, you already knew it, and you were just being nice. You're like, I'm going to let him have this.
I am literally, Nick, I mean, I've worn these all day because we don't ever have to leave the house anymore. I am currently wearing Star Wars pajama pants, so...
Because of today?
Because of today, yes.
Or have you just been wearing them for 2 straight weeks?
I mean, they're the current pair of pajama pants in the rotation before they go into the laundry and a new pair comes out, but...
Okay, question. How many days will you wear the pajama pants before they go in the laundry?
I mean, so I don't typically wear them back-to-back days, so that helps. Like I'd say maybe every third day they get worn, and I'll probably keep them around for 2 weeks. So what's that, like 4 or 5 days?
Okay, so we're similar, but I wear mine back-to-back. Every Friday, I check myself. I'm like, have I been wearing these pants all week? And if the answer is yes, they go in the laundry.
Yeah.
If the answer is no, I'll wear them through the weekend.
I mean, I have become a big proponent of the smell check. You know, you pick up the piece of clothing. If it doesn't smell, you wear it.
Yeah. It works every time.
I do the same thing to find out if I have to shower in the morning.
Yeah.
Check. Do I smell? No? All right, let's do this. Put on some deodorant and go at it.
Perfect. I will say I'm very proud of myself. For the last 6 days, every day I've gotten dressed in actual clothes.
Really? I did. Yesterday I put on, actually both days of the weekend I put on real pants. So, I mean, because I had to go pick up food. So.
You had to leave the house?
I had to leave the house. And I don't want to roll up to a restaurant in Star Wars pajama pants.
What a world we live in right now, eh?
It is unbelievable.
Sitting here talking about how often we're changing our pants because there's literally no reason to.
No, it's literally just can the people you live with manage what you're doing? And one of them has no idea in your house, so.
It's true.
Yeah. One thing that I was weird today, so I was like we're all, aware of like we have a video meeting or something like that. But I was recording a video to like post to work. And for some reason, it was very much weirding me out that I wasn't wearing socks at that point in time. Like I felt very naked doing it without socks on. So,
even though no one could see your feet?
No one could see my feet, but the fact that I think it was because I was standing for it. I wasn't sitting. But like my feet weren't in the camera shot. So
yeah, but you're way more conscious of the feeling when you're standing on them.
Yeah.
I understand that.
So I had to go put on socks so I could get through it. Well, Nick, we are getting close to some real news in regards to hockey related things happening, which I guess is the most hope we've had. We're getting close to a date where we'll know that things might happen.
Another week where there's almost news.
So today we'll talk about what news might happen. We've got the quarantine corners back. We have very exciting news around that. And we'll see where this episode takes us. So before we do, we want to thank our friends over at ParkPower for their fantastic work. In a time with this, and I've actually seen, Nashville, I don't know if you saw, 3 months ago, they had a tornado went through part of town. I'm not sure if you saw that. So they had that, and now they have a quarantine. And then last night, there was a big storm ripped through town, 130,000 people without power.
Oh my God.
So you don't realize how much you rely on power until you are without it.
And you can't leave your house.
Right. You can't leave your house. There's very few stores open. And so that's why using a company like Park Power is so important, because you want someone who is reliable, who's able to get you what you need when you need it. Head to ParkPower.ca and you can find out the great ways that they can provide what you need during this time. And they are certainly going to be there. They'll be able to provide you with a good rate so that you can get a quote over there. If you are in need of utilities in Alberta, Park Power is your place to go for that. All right, Nick, this is the news that you have been waiting for.
That I'm still waiting for.
But again, we almost have news that you have been waiting for. Let us know what you know so far about the NHL draft.
Well, I know that the NHL is pushing to hold a draft in June, and I think they're meeting with the teams on it today or this week to talk about it. That means holding a draft before the season resumes, which means holding a draft before the season's over, which means setting a draft order on an incomplete season. So
there's a lot of things there that leave me with a lot of questions. So let's start first with the date. So their current date that they're looking at, June 5th, the original date for the draft was supposed to be June 26th. So even without the postponement of the regular season, postponement of the playoffs, they're doing, for some reason, that they thought, let's just move it 3 weeks sooner. One reason I see for that is there's a lot of TV partners and fans clamoring for literally anything to do right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of that.
And I think another big part of that is the NHL is looking for literally anything to do right now. Like, how many Zoom calls with players can you hold? How many games can you rewatch with the team's Twitter account?
Or, EA Sports, NHL 20 games can you play?
Oh my God. At this point, EA should just buy the NHL.
Just officially finish the regular season online.
Yeah, they need something from a business. I think the business is what's driving this decision right now. Is like they need content to keep them relevant, to keep people engaged, and I believe that they're running pretty thin on ideas.
Well, and I forget who it was. It could have been Pierre LeBrun who commented on it today that right now it's been a month and a half, Nick, since we have last had hockey. Even by that proposed draft date, it will have been 3 months since the last time we had hockey, which in a regular season, right? The Stanley Cup's usually handed out the beginning of June. And then camps start to open up middle of September. By the time this draft happens, we will have been through a regular length off season. And the only thing they'll have done is a draft.
Man, that's crazy when you put it like that. I never even thought about that, but you're right.
So they're really wanting, right? Because they have normally there's draft, there's free agency, there's camps starting to open up. There's something. Now there's nothing. Do you think though, with the fact that facilities are shut down, teams are living in different circumstances, or these teams trying to build their draft boards, do you think it's fair to them to say you now get 3 less weeks to prepare for this draft?
Yeah. I don't what else are they going to do? Maybe they're trying to give the NHL's trying to give their employees something to do right now too.
Right.
Seriously, what else are they going to do? They don't know when the season's coming back. They can't really prepare for the rest of the season or the playoffs. They don't have access to their facilities.
they don't
They're
have...
probably all building their draft boards right now.
I'm sure that a lot of them have a fairly substantial one, because another thing we're not going to have, right? And no, even if they held at the original date, draft combine's not going to happen. There's no chance of that.
No.
We can get Quentin Byfield on the Zoom call, see how many chin-ups he can do.
He was already on one this
there
week
you go.
with Gretzky.
Was he doing? Were they doing chin-ups together?
Gretzky would demolish all these kids in chin-ups, probably. They had Gretzky. They had Gretzky moderating a chat with like the top 5 prospects of the draft.
So he's also bored.
Yeah. There's another one where they're like, we're paying the guy. We might as well get him to do something.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So it's coming up. June 5th is the proposed date, not official. Like you said, Nick, their meeting, Board of Governors met this afternoon, started at 3:00 Eastern time. We haven't heard anything from that yet. Very possible that this news drops in the middle of our show. And so if it does, we'll see what comes out of that. That said, with that, so we're now having a draft that's being set based on a partial season. And I know that the players, teams, league, etc., had issue with setting a playoff roster based on an unfinished season because they were going to have, some teams have played more games than others. And yet they will determine the fate of the future of organizations based on that small window. What is the word on how they're going to determine the draft order for this?
Points percentage. So I believe under the current proposal, the top 16 teams ranked by points percentage make it into the playoffs. And then they rearrange the bottom 15 teams. Is my math right? I think so.
Yeah.
Based on points percentage going up. And then they're going to modify, or they're proposing to modify the draft lottery so no team can jump more than 4 spots.
Right. So that means that, because before you could move up no matter where you were in the,
yes.
Everyone's in the lottery, you're there.
Yes.
So that means that, for example, so right now, the teams that would be in, obviously, Detroit, Ottawa, San Jose, whose pick is going to Ottawa, LA, Anaheim, New Jersey, Buffalo, Montreal, Chicago, Arizona, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Rangers, Florida, and the Blue Jackets. Meaning, Nick, if this is how the NHL decides to do the playoffs, we do not have to worry about the Wild coming out of the elimination station.
That is very true. I love that that's top of mind. Like, that's been weighing on you, eh?
I've been nervous. Real nervous.
I like this proposal, Carl.
Why is this, Nick?
Well, I just think it's fair to the teams at the bottom of the standings.
Okay, so when we look...
Objectively speaking.
Let's look at the bottom of the standings. Which team, in regards to point percentage, Nick, is at the bottom?
I don't know. Some little team out of Detroit called the Red Wings.
Okay.
I've
heard of... I have heard of them, actually. I mean, it's understandable why you haven't. So right now they have, with these new odds, they will have a 19% chance of the first overall pick, 17% chance of second, 14 for third, and then 51% chance of fourth overall. Good news for you, though, the New Jersey Devils cannot steal the first overall pick like they did to the Avalanche twice in the last decade. So,
yeah, good.
So the teams with a shot at first overall, I guess, then become what? We got Detroit, Ottawa, and LA.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was like, Carl, you missed San Jose.
Right.
But that makes sense. Yeah.
So, so this one telling me that it does look like you can Oh yeah, there we go. And Anaheim. Anaheim also has
Anaheim
that
too,
so,
yeah.
And is it correct that they are only doing like it's one team, you win the lottery and that's it? That there's not other teams moving up? Is that correct?
That I don't know. That the article I read did not go into details on that. Changing the lottery format. This is from an article from Elliot Friedman on Sportsnet. Picking just one winner and limiting any move up to a maximum of 4 spots. So yes.
Okay, so one winner. So that actually, so with that makes Detroit have a 57% chance of first, 43% chance of second. So Detroit is picking first or second. Who do you want first overall, Nick?
Alexis Lafreniere.
Okay. Who do you want second overall?
Quentin Byfield.
Okay. There we go. Settled it. So for some of these teams, your draft board decisions become a lot simpler.
Yes.
You're like, well, I'm doing this or this.
I think everyone's pretty set on who number 1 and 2 are.
Yeah, it's that third and fourth, which is so with this proposed format, Ottawa is guaranteed to be picking twice in the top 4. Obviously, they'd love to be picking first and second. I guess it's not possible for them to pick first and second. They could pick first and third, which is probably their dream scenario.
Yeah.
So with that and this draft, how do you think that this is going to play? Because I mean, there are a lot of teams that have a look towards the draft or making trades and making moves, and also picks that are conditional based on playoffs, right? If you make the second round of the playoffs, this pick moves up. One thing the NHL said is they're going to give teams a chance to renegotiate those. I'm not sure what that's going to look like.
Oh, what a mess. What a mess.
Like, I feel like you got to have some sort of way to step in. Like, all right, like here's your chance to renegotiate it. If not, there's no condition or something like that. Like,
well, what the NHL said is that they're going to give teams a chance to renegotiate. If they can't come to a decision, then they'll just accept the NHL's decision for them, whatever that decision. So I'm assuming they'd look at every trade on a case-by-case basis or every condition on a case-by-case basis and make what they think is the most objectively fair decision.
Yeah. Like what is probable or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, right, because if there's one, and I don't have the full list of conditional picks pulled up here, but like, for example, if there was a conditional pick on the Islanders making the Stanley Cup, probably not going to happen. So you could safely say that that's the NHL would err with that way. The other thing, though, like all those teams that are looking to make, this player is available at the draft, et cetera, what do you do when that player has to go play in the playoffs next?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is where all these wrinkles come in with the conditions and the trades that happen on draft day. And I think Bill Daly was asked about that, and he was kind of like, I don't know. We'll figure that out if the question comes up. But like, I think that if you are traded at the draft, you go to the new team when the season resumes. You don't finish out the season with the team that traded you.
So if you're traded away from a playoff team, so there's now suddenly, what if you, here's my scenario though. Let's say, you're a playoff team and they are going to hold a playoff, which is another thing that they'll probably announce in conjunction with this, their hopes and plans for a playoff. If you were to have hockey played this season after the draft, can you trade a pick, get a player, and have that player suddenly jump straight into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think you have to.
That's insane.
Like, let me make sure I'm understanding your question. So if I'm playing for, I don't know, whoever, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I'm traded to a non-playoff team, and the Penguins go into the playoffs, then
you don't get to play.
Then you don't get to play.
Or
but if I'm traded to a playoff team,
yeah,
you're saying, should this player get to play in the playoffs?
Like Taylor Hall. Coyotes aren't making the playoffs. Taylor Hall's sitting there doing nothing. And the Coyotes turn around and trade him. Or a guy, maybe they say expiring contracts can't do that, but someone who has a deal for next year can. So let's say it's, I don't know, name me a Red Wing that was on the block that didn't get traded.
Nobody's going to want them, Carl. That's why they didn't get traded.
Okay, let's say someone is real desperate and they're like, look, we want Justin Applicator.
Sure.
And they call up the Red Wings, they call up Stevie, and they say, hey, Steve, we want Applicator. We'll give you a sixth for him.
Yeah.
And he's like, thank you, and yes. Is he allowed to then play for that playoff team?
Yeah, he's a member of their team as soon as that trade goes down.
That's crazy.
It would be crazy. It's like just moving the trade deadline to right before the playoffs start.
Yeah.
But that's why, like, from a business perspective, I totally see why it makes sense for the NHL to hold the draft in early June. But it sucks from a competitive perspective. From like the perspective of competition and team play and, you know, finishing out the regular season and playoffs in a fair and equitable way, it sucks from that perspective.
I would say the draft lottery is certainly, and like that whole thing, I don't think that that's inequitable, right? Like they've ordered them in a way that I think is fair, especially if you think you're not going to finish the regular season. It's just the fact of somehow having a draft before you've crowned a champion.
Yeah.
Is absurd to me.
I mean, here's another question. If you draft a player, can you quickly sign them to an entry-level contract and get them playing in the playoffs?
Burn that first year? I mean, the Avalanche did it with Cale Makar.
Yeah.
He made his career debut in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if any playoff team is going to be drafting high enough to make it worth them.
I was going to say
with a player, but
but if you could trade up, right? Like, let's say I'm sure for every single person out there is a price for a pick, right? Like, I'm sure the Red Wings don't want to trade first overall, but there's a price that they would accept. So get Lafreniere right in the playoffs? Maybe. Again, all these weird scenarios, I'm sure the NHL will make it so that we don't get any of those weirdness and fun. I'm sure they have. That's why this meeting that started at, 5 hours ago still hasn't had a press conference afterwards yet.
Yeah, but they've probably definitely had pizza delivered at this point.
Yeah, I would say pizza was a must.
Okay, here's my proposed solution, because I've been sitting here stewing on this trade thing, okay? So before you hold the draft, you tell any team that, well, if you're doing this draft, then you're essentially eliminating the rest of the regular season, right? Can we assume that? Okay, so it's just, you're telling the playoff teams, submit your playoff rosters. You can't trade anybody off of your playoff rosters.
Okay.
The rest of the players are on the table for the draft.
I like that idea, yeah.
And then if you trade for somebody, you can't just put them on your playoff roster.
Right. So, but what if, and you would have to have like pretty lengthy ones. So with injuries and whatnot, you could swap some guys in.
Whatever. Set the number to whatever you want to set it to. Yeah,
I'm fine with that as an idea.
Because
you can still have some transactions.
And you can still, because you can't have a draft with no trades. The draft is boring enough already. Like, you can't take out one of the most exciting aspects of it.
Right. They're literally doing this so that people will tune in, right? They saw what the NFL did. They had millions of people watching the draft happening from home. So, what's sad is that the NFL already had fans digitally booing Roger Goodell. Now when the NHL, they have to get more creative when they all can't just copy and be like, now it's your turn to boo Gary Bettman. I think what they should do is just do a Twitter search and just read. You should do, when on Jimmy Kimmel, how they like read mean tweets?
Yeah.
That's what I want Gary Bettman to do.
Oh my God. That would be so tasty. Kimmel, get on that.
Make it happen.
Can you just imagine Gary's little squeaky voice reading mean tweets about himself? And he'd do that weird like neck twitch thing. Oh, and Gary.
He'd have to pretend that he some of them he probably wouldn't get. I just imagine he's like, why Jimmy, why was that mean? Get in here. Yeah. He's got Bill Daly sitting next to him and they're like trying to like go through them and like, don't understand that one.
That's the late night segment we all need right now.
That's it. Sports commissioners reading mean tweets. All right, Nick. That's the draft. That's that. Any progress on what we're going to do for playing hockey?
Not that I've heard. Have you? Other than there's teams putting in I guess I have heard something. That there's start explaining it. There's teams putting in bids to host games in their cities. I think it would all be with no fans.
Yeah, definitely. Another piece that I did see, which I think would eliminate a lot of cities, is that Canada announced this week that any players returning to the country will have to also undergo full, they're not, forget the word I'm looking for. They still have to follow quarantine rules. So it's like the same rules that anyone would have to do to come back to the country. So you are fully quarantined for 2 weeks, not allowed to leave the house. And then, when you are then proven symptom-free, you're allowed out. I would say, and as well, I would also most places in the province still have, or in the country still have limitations on people and gatherings. So they would need provincial approval for any of those. Almost, I would say, strongly eliminating most of Canada as an option for playing.
Yeah.
But he did say that he has been in contact with Gary Bettman, so maybe they can read mean tweets together.
Yeah, I'd watch that. I'd watch that I would watch that before I watched any Zoom conferences between hockey players.
Yeah, absolutely. Even do it on a Zoom, just every day. Gary hops on, just over the lunch hour. Between 12 and 12:15, Gary Bettman reads your tweets.
By the end of the week, his tie's loose, his hair's messy.
Yeah, he's gone full Brian Burke on us.
There's only so many mean tweets one person can take.
and unfortunately, there's a lot of them out there on the internet. So, all right. Let's see. Any other news in the NHL this week?
Oh, no. I haven't seen anything. The Leafs signed some dude.
Yeah, the Leafs did sign some dude. And you know what? I'm fairly certain if there's people available right now as free agent signings, probably not going to be a real difference maker.
No. Probably. That was definitely at the bottom of Kyle Dubas's to-do list. He's just bored at home. He's like, what are some low-hanging fruit I can knock off the list here? Something easy to scratch off.
Yeah. We're just jonesing for a move. I don't know. I got to do something. What can I do? Sign Mikko Lehtinen. That's what I'm going to do.
That name sounded familiar to me. I was like, whoa. And then I looked into it, and he's not anybody I know.
Yeah. There was a backup goaltender contract extension this week. Jaro Halak signed a 1-year extension for $2.25 with the Bruins.
Very exciting.
Yeah, right. I know. That was and that's our transaction news of the week. Are you ready for arguably our biggest moment of the show, Nick?
Absolutely.
All right. Last week we debuted the Quarantine Corner. To much fanfare, so much fanfare, in fact, that we received a very special package from our friend Scotty Hicks, Nick. he came in ever so clutch with this for us.
Quarantine.
Each corner is to be a personal space.
God. New guy's in the corner puking his guts out.
You're gonna quarantine me inside a quarantine? Really?
Rocky Balboa prays in this corner the champ.
Am I still in quarantine?
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
I gotta say, from the man who brought us the Elimination Station jingle, he one-upped himself.
Scotty Hicks.
Scotty.
What a gem. That was awesome. That made my day when I heard that.
I could not have been happier. I shared that to so many people. Like you and my wife, because it's like I don't see other people, Nick. But I made her listen to it a few times. So
man, I don't see other people either. I miss them.
Amy, do you want us to crack open the Zoom and let everyone in?
No. God, no.
All right. Well, we won't do that. What we will do, Nick, is head to the Quarantine Corner. Quarantine Corner is where we help you with some problems. And there are some very, we've all got weird, we talked at the start, right? How do you know when to change pants? These are all things we've never had to think of before. You just changed your clothes like a normal person. Well, it's not normal times, Nick.
No, it's not.
So, that was a mini Quarantine Corner, but now we've got some very good questions in this week. And one of them that actually was on my mind, and I was going to take action in this regard, but I decided to wait for your help. So this is a question that I'm going to direct mostly to Nick. So, as you can tell, this is the longest my beard has ever been. And it's not anything to be super proud of. Like I've never liked my beard, and I just grew it because you know what? I don't have to look super great all the time right now. So I thought, why not, right? And I feel like all of us, none of us can get haircuts unless you've got like some razors and clippers at home. We're all letting our facial hair grow. This is a thing that's happening. So this question comes in. Our first question today is, what is the preferable quarantine beard style? I have rocked the chin strap for almost 10 years. And then a couple of weeks ago, shaved it perfectly clean. Other than just cleaning up my neck and a few stray hairs, haven't really touched my beard, wondering what look I should do. So Nick, to our listener that sent this question in, what should we do with our beards?
Okay, you want to know what I'm doing? And I'll tell you, because I think this is what you should do in times of quarantine, which is basically just hibernation. Nothing. I haven't touched my beard since March the 13th is the last time I cleaned up. And it's driving me bonkers. Like crazy. I'll be sitting down working and I'll be like, oh God, this is itchy, or like my mustache is getting too long that it's bugging my upper lip. I'm like, I gotta clean this thing up, clean this bad boy up, do something with it. And then I go and every time I look in the mirror, I'm looking at myself on the screen right now. I'm like, damn, that beard looks good. Like this is the most full my beard has ever been.
It does look very good.
And I see it. I'm like, I don't care how annoyed I am. I can't take this off.
See, I've obviously not taken away the mustache, but I almost like this afternoon shaved off the rest of it.
Why?
Like you said, like it's itchy. I don't particularly like how it looks, although it's getting better. I did touch it because with, the first time through a beard, especially when it's not super long, you've got a lot of hairs of various length. So I did trim them to all be, similar. That looked better. I kind of trimmed, so like to give it a defined line down to the mustache area. And I'm just still not happy with how it looks. Like it's better than other beards I've had, but I don't know, Nick. What do you think?
I feel like you're like me a little bit. Like on the cheeks is not very thick, right?
Yeah,
it takes a while.
I'm not even my area of weakness is the area between my mustache and my chin. It's not super great in that area. which I feel like that's a key part of a good beard.
Well, I think every beard goes through its awkward teenage phase. And you got to wait it out. A couple weeks it takes before you're like, okay, I see the fullness. The longer hairs are starting to cover up where I'm lacking. And it starts to look better.
Okay, because this has been, I mean, I did say I trimmed it so that it was less random. This has been at least 4 weeks. Time is essentially irrelevant, but I think it's been 4 weeks. So, okay, so you're saying your quarantine beard of choice is the let it go.
Yeah, why would it? I'm letting everything else go. I might as well let my beard go too. I'm not seeing anybody.
It's true.
Except for FaceTime. My mom keeps telling me I should shave. And my grandma today told me I should shave too. Like, get out of here. You can't do anything to me. You're so far away.
My video's off. All right, well, there you go. Thanks for that question. Next up, we have, well, let's stick with the hair-related questions because this is a question I think a lot of us are wondering. I don't have that problem. Again, I have some razor, my own hair. As someone growing out their hair, what qualifies as a mullet? So how long does it have to be to count as a mullet?
Like, it needs to be like down to your shoulders, I think. Top of your neck.
Shoulders?
Or sorry, bottom of your neck.
I think that if the hair at the back of your head is, I say it's a ratio between like the business up front length to the party in the back length.
That's the quote. That's one of the best quotes ever.
So I feel like that's what you've got to do, right? So I feel like what? A 4-to-1 ratio of back to front?
Yeah. So it's relative to what's on the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
I mean, I think the other part of that is don't.
I mean, but in the same way that like you could be just let your beard go, why not try something weird? If you hate it, no one will know. I mean, you'll have taken pictures and it'll look terrible, but no one will know. I took some pictures mid haircut. Mm. Those were some scary sights. I did the Harry Gets laugh, which is still the cul-de-sac, but with a full head of hair there and just trimmed in the middle.
Did you do your own with like a shaver that you had?
Yeah.
Okay, listen to this, okay?
For those who cannot tell, which is everyone because we did not open up the Zoom room, Nick just checked to make sure the door was closed to the office. So yeah. This is good.
Because my hair is driving me crazy. Like, I need a haircut so bad. And I went to get my shaver to look for it so I could plan to do this haircut. It's gone.
Really?
I think she threw it out, Carl. I think
knew.
I think she was afraid that I was gonna like buzz my head, and she didn't want me to, so she just threw it out.
I mean, like, have you fully unpacked every box?
Yes, it's not here.
Because I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing with mine, and I found it in the garage. So
okay, well, I'll go looking again this week, and if I don't find it, there's a confrontation happening.
Well, I'm
going to ask about it.
I wish you both the best. Report back. If you show up with, I mean, if you just take scissors, I mean, that's one solution. You take scissors to it. The only disappointing part is I'm fairly certain everywhere is sold out of razors right now. So
yeah.
All right. Here we go. What do we got? So for those who are this is coming in from Alex. He's a Canucks fan. As a fan of Elias Pettersson, a big fan of Swedish hockey players. So he's wondering right now, he can't get his joy from watching Swedish hockey players. Are there any other sort of Swedish products that he could get that could bring him some sort of happiness in quarantine?
Berries?
Swedish berries are a good one. I would say, I would just start ordering IKEA furniture online and build it. We're offered to build other people's IKEA furniture.
Yeah, that's a good quarantine activity.
You could become the expert. You don't even need all those things. And when you're done, you have about 8 million Allen keys.
Oh my God, they're everywhere. I don't know which one's for what either. I
did put together furniture this weekend. We got a patio set delivered to the house because we did not yet have a patio set. And for each piece of furniture, it came with its own Allen key. Which reminded me, we got IKEA spice racks. That's the word I'm looking for. IKEA spice racks. Each one of those came with its own Allen key. And we filled our pantry door with them. So I have literally 8 Allen keys. I've got more Allen keys than I do spice racks sitting around right now. It is unreal. But that's what I would do, probably.
You should hang them on the spice rack.
That's a good place to put them, yeah.
It could just become an Allen key rack.
I like that. All right. These next 2 questions are our only hockey-related questions we got in this week. So, question number 1. With the NHL draft apparently set for early June, how can Sens fans stay positive about the 2 young prospects they'll get, knowing the history of the organization? So when you look at an organization like the Senators and their struggles, do you still, what would you say to bring hope to a Senators fan right now?
That I honestly stop being so negative about the Ottawa Senators. I know that ownership group is insane and should probably stop talking publicly. But when you look at the actual team and their pipeline of prospects, they're in good shape. There's no reason to be all doom and gloom about the future of the Ottawa Senators from an on-ice perspective.
Right. And I think one thing that helps a lot is the fact of last year, they made a terrible trade trading that first-round pick for Matt Duchene.
Yes.
Well, it came back, and now they have the reverse of it, where the Sharks probably shouldn't have traded that pick for Erik Karlsson.
Yes. They have 2 guaranteed first-round picks and a third, which looks like a conditional.
Yeah, and it's what? The condition is if the Islanders win the draft lottery, it moves to next year. Well, good news, the Islanders aren't even going to be in the draft lottery. So that will be, the 17th overall pick, I think, most likely. So around there. High teens for them. 3 picks in that slot, 2 of them in the top 4. After last year, they missed out on the draft last year, but I think they're going to do just fine. They also have 4 picks in the second round.
Yeah, and that's where you find the diamonds in the rough, is in the second round. So be positive.
That's next. And I agree. There's a lot to be hopeful for. They've done well with a lot of what they've gotten. And there's a lot of potential all over the map for these Senators moving forward. We'll just got to find out what happens.
Yeah.
All right. The last question, and this one is actually one that I think, we have heard the answer to. So as you mentioned earlier, these NHL teams and networks have been re-airing old games. They've been showing some of their favorites, or even I know the Avalanche, they did entire playoff runs. So they re-aired the entire playoff run from last year. Well, that did not end with a Stanley Cup. So obviously there were some games they aired that they lost. There was an elimination game that they lost that they aired. Right? They're not all great games. So what would it take for you to watch your team's worst moments again in quarantine?
Probably not much. A storm to come through and knock my power out.
Like, hey, we'll put your power back on if you watch this. I mean, here's the thing. We tried to watch one of your team's worst moments. And...
What do you mean tried? We did.
Well, we tried to. They didn't show it, Nick.
Yeah, and that's what made me so mad. It wasn't so much watching the moment. It was the fact that they just glossed it over like nothing happened. No, you can't do that to a person. Claude Lemieux committed a crime on the ice. And they were just like, yeah, whatever. Congratulations, Claude, for winning the Stanley Cup. I'm trying very hard not to swear again, Carl.
Yeah. I understand, Nick. So, I mean, and for that to happen, all that you had to do was lose a bet. Right?
Yeah, it probably wouldn't take much to get me to watch some hockey again.
Even the worst moments of the team.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're giving me a choice, then obviously I wouldn't choose that one. I don't want to watch those moments. I'm not going to go out and find them, but...
I was going through that list the other day with someone, just talking like, what sports would you watch right now? Because we're in desperate times, Nick.
Yeah.
What is the biggest stretch from a sport you would not have previously watched? Mine, that I would have never tuned in for. I would probably watch, if it was put on television this week, I would watch the Thursday of a non-major golf tournament.
Just because it was... Wait, are you talking about like a replay of it?
No, I would watch it live. If it was on live, I would watch that.
You're just so starved for competition, live competition.
Yeah, without knowing the future, like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Is he going to make this putt? There's no way to know.
So have you watched any replay games of any sport?
No. I don't. Once I know what happens, I don't really care to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Same thing, I don't read books twice. I very rarely will watch a movie twice. I know what happens. That suspense is gone for me.
Yeah.
I have to wait and or if I'm looking for to dive in more, okay, I want to watch it and see if I can pick some extra pieces out of it, or a movie or a book or something like that. Let's be honest though, it's movies and it's not books. That's the only reason I rewatch something.
I've tuned in 3 times. The first, and I've never watched the entire game anytime. The first, we switched our show to watch the last 2 minutes of the Raptors and Philadelphia game 7, I believe, where Kawhi gets that shot in the last second.
Yeah.
That was actually still moment. Very exciting because they did it with 3 seconds left or 4 seconds left. It was crazy. We tuned in to watch the 7th inning of the Blue Jays versus Rangers.
Yeah, that was
the bat flip.
Never forget that one. Yeah, the bat flip game.
That one was still just watching it all unfold is still crazy.
That is one that I would go back and watch in the entirety because it's not even just the bat flip. That was a moment. There was earlier in the game when Russell Martin hit Chu, throwing the ball back to the mound. That was not even close to the craziest game my team has ever been involved.
Yeah, and you forget, I forgot the order of everything that happened because there was that one Rangers player who had 2 errors in the same inning.
That was Rougned Odor.
Yeah. Crazy. So we tuned in for that inning, which was an hour and a half long. About the length of a movie. And then the last one I watched, I talked about on the show, is the 2008 Stanley Cup Final, Pittsburgh and Detroit. The hockey replays are not good because they cut out so much of the game.
That's right. That's what you said. Yeah. Interesting that they would. Yeah. Not a good choice.
Yeah. It's weird.
There we go, Nick. That has been another episode of the Quarantine Corner. Should we play it again? The jingle?
Yeah.
Just to leave with
awesome.
it?
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Quarantine.
Each corner is to be a personal space.
God. New guy's in the corner puking his guts out.
Gonna quarantine me inside a quarantine? Really?
Rocky Balboa praising his corner the champ.
Am I still in quarantine?
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Well, Nick, there we go. Another week of quarantine podcasting in the books. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Before we go, we have a very special message.
Special message. Okay, Sean Connery.
Yeah. For you from of a podcast that is out called Straight from the CPA's Mouth. It's a new podcast series created by the CPA Education Foundation and funded by the Heshi CPA Knowledge Center. Alberta's chartered professional accountants, or CPAs, are experts on a wide range of topics and issues of interest to Albertans. I feel like right now, I think we could all use a little bit of money help when we are looking to figure things out.
Yeah.
So Straight from the CPA's Mouth has discussions on topics important to you, from leadership skills, achieving career potential, financial literacy, and how to make your tax refund bigger. No one said no to a bigger tax refund. Whether you're a university student, a new Albertan, a parent, you'll find something of value in this podcast. Find it. Look for Straight from the CPA's Mouth on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or on the CPA Education Foundation's website at cpaalberta.ca/foundation. That's cpaalberta.ca/foundation. Thanks to them for supporting this week's show, and keep it up, because and we mentioned in the past, Nick, until this quarantine and all of this is done, maybe even until there's hockey again, all of the support that we receive, we're actually putting it back out into the community, supporting charitable organizations in Calgary and Toronto, looking at those who are food insecure and supporting those. So thank you to them for helping us support other organizations. So, and if you're looking for groups, that's a great one to support right now. If you're looking for more about the show, you can find us at thefourthlinepodcast.com, at Fourth Line Podcast on Twitter, mail at thefourthlinepodcast.com, where you can send us your quarantine corner questions, and we'll help you out in the same way that we helped out people with beards, mullets, and struggles with how to feel about their hockey team. We're here for you. Send us your questions. The more the better. We'll get to them all eventually. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for those who sent in your questions this week. We'll be back next week, where we'll be talking about little teaser. We'll be talking about some teams that are perennial losers next week, Nick.
That'll be fun.
Until next week.
It's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. Give my team the first overall pick, and welcome the new Red Wing, whose name is Alexis.